Okay, everybody, how is it going? My name is Dylan. Welcome to Big Dylan Games. Hello, everybody. This is Dylan. Hello, everybody. My name is Dylan. Welcome to Big Dylan Games. And today I'm going to do just a quick little review over a game I call Vindictus. Well, I'm sure that it's always been called Vindictus, but who cares, Dylan? Huh? Okay, so anyways, I'm already messing up here because I can't get the display to work correctly because I'm stupid. I am idiot, and also because the border and whatnot are on here, so everything is gonna be messed up. But don't worry, guys. That's exactly what this whole thing is. This is a terrible, terrible review, and I think that's kind of uh, necessary on this whole thing because I am a terrible, terrible reviewer, practically. And the basic thing here is that I'm kind of doing this just as a kind of little spoof or a dumb little turnaround or whatnot. So basically, what I'm gonna try to do here is do like a nice little on the spot review on this entire game when it comes down to like normal gameplay aspects and things such as like gameplay, audio, visual aspects, and how this works. So, Vindictus is it's a free to play game that is, I believe, exclusively only for PC. Now, what is the reason behind its exclusivity? I think it's mainly just because of the difficulty that the engine for the game actually has. I mean, if you've already noticed here, like especially right here, in some instances there are times where the game actually has real bad slowdown, and sometimes where the characters kind of glitch, and in particular, they just kind of go all over the place in some instances, and quite honestly, that's not the big issue. It's not an issue at all. Sometimes, yes, it is annoying when you're actually playing the game, and sometimes you'll encounter these like slowdowns and whatnot. But realistically, the game itself is actually quite enjoyable, to be honest. And I know that some people would say, like, oh, yep, this is a real bad slowdown moment right there. Oof. I know that some people will say like, "Oh, that's a major problem. I'm not one to play a game that has something like that." To be fair, to be quite honest, I wouldn't say, pass off on this game just because of its slowdown and its glitches and whatnot. If anything, I would say at least give the game a go because it's actually a really good game. So the way it starts off is you start off with a nice little cavalcade of characters, each one using different types of weapons and abilities and whatnot. And of course, each one has their own type of different abilities and different backstories and everything. And it's actually quite nice. Uh, so mainly, like, no, this character that I'm currently playing as right here is called Herc, and of course you can see that I gave him the character name Wide Boy. That's YDBOY, Wide Boy. Don't eat that. Talking to the cat. Sorry. This character is actually really good. He uses just a big, huge, great sword. It's super fun to just swing this thing around. And one of the combat things that I really, really like about this game, is that what I would combine the games together, the way that I would really describe it is if World of Warcraft meets Devil May Cry. You have your basic button layout, whatnots, and it's really simple. You use the left mouse, or God, this is what happens when you ad lib and don't really work on a script. So the idea here is that um, you use two buttons. You got a strong attack and then a light attack. So I'm using a mouse and keyboard, which I would prefer is the better option when it comes down to controlling the game. Although that's just my personal perspective. I'm sure that some people would like to use the comfort of the controller, and if you want to go for it, the game does support it, and it's very easy to do. Um, One of the benefits with this simple combat is that all the moves are pretty easy to remember. And also because this adds some World of Warcraft elements, this allows you to be able to use all sorts of different abilities and features and whatnot. Oh, thank you, computer. My virus and threat protection needs to be checked. Thank you so much for that. Oy. So, anyways, one of the main things here. God, I've already lost track of what I was talking about. So, a beneficial thing here about the combat is that it is simple to use. It's very easy to figure out like what all the combat moves actually are, and you know it's really good when you drain. God, of course, this is what happens when you do ad libbing, Dylan. This is what happens. What do you think? What are you gonna do? I don't know, Dylan. I think I'm just gonna keep on going with the review. Or I guess I could just consider this as an impression, but the title, of course, is a terrible review. It's in the name. If you can't laugh at yourself, what do you got? So, anyways, the combat is actually quite responsive. It feels really good. Um, right on down to the points of like actually like you can with my character here you can actually do something like this, which allows you to just like prod your sword into multiple enemies and slam them on the ground. I tell you, like that's one of my favorite movements, mainly just because I love the response. I like how it feels, and also it's the one way that you can make the characters stretch out. You can make the character models all stretch out like egregiously far distances. And it's like if you look at the characters as if they were like Play-Doh figures or like Gumby figures or whatnot. And you just like stretch them out. It's super fun, super enjoyable. Now, the character models themselves, they do seem pretty simplistic, and I think I kind of stopped on this portion just for to kind of show out like their standard animation. A lot of the animation style does seem to be pretty repetitive at times. Oh, here's a boss. Music wise, everything else in the music is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, like the same problems with the server connections, because this is an online game, by the way. I didn't exactly explain that, but the online aspect of the game is what kind of makes the game very difficult in order for it to actually um, like link up and sync and whatnot. I don't know. It's just like it's really hard to really explain. I mean, you just have to play it or watch live streams or whatnot and actually see it. But a lot of times, what you'll get is these weird glitches where the game basically just tries to level up and load and like kind of sync in between, and it's not able to do that in a good, timely manner. So one of the beneficial the one of the good things here is that the visuals actually do look very appealing. The best that I can probably put into in perspective is probably like PS3 era games graphics. Why? I don't know. I mean, I think that would be very reasonable when it comes down to like actually like figuring out how much you got. Huh? God, again, it. Phone, go to sleep. You're going to bed. So that's kind of a interesting perspective here. One of the things that, it is one of those problems. There is problems in the game where it's the like pop in, pop outs. Some of the character models are kind of simplistic in their design, but as far as it looks like, everything is original, and there is a story. There are some cutscenes, but sometimes the cutscenes are very vague, very few and in between, and a lot of it is just saved for its time with the use of text. That's basically it. And you get a large cavalcade of characters that you basically interact with, not necessarily in real life. Like, walk out into the place and then you see these characters kind of wandering about. You don't really see that. In fact, they only exist in like their picture format, which is kind of difficult and kind of sad, because it would kind of be nice to see these characters, inside of the area and actually interacting with the entire environment around you. But, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Mainly just because, like, of all things, I don't think that it's really necessary. Oh, I'll kind of point this out here too, once again, about the server issues. One of the main things is that if you're in a game like this, you have to use like server channels. So you choose which channel you want, from like one channel 1 to like channel 200 or however many that they have. What I found is that the least amount of people inside of the game in one channel, the better. So like channel 1 is always the first one. So if you want to be in an area where you do not glitch out as much as you would hope not to, you might want to go into like the level 20s or higher. Someplace that is like very far away, something where it does not actually overload your computer. And I would say again, on the graphic issues, I don't think that a problem with the game is the I don't how do I put this? I don't think that your computer would have too many issues with trying to play this game. If you had the lowest graphic card, I don't think that you would have big concerns with actually playing this game. Mainly just because like the graphics themselves are kind of low in their power, so it kind of just uptunes to whatever it is that you have. Now, that's just me. My apologies. Mainly just because like my graphics card is a 1060, a GTX 1060 6GB, and this still plays the same as when I had a Radeon HD 6850 or a 6800, whichever. Either way, that one before was a lot less powerful, and then I finally got one that was higher in its power. So there's that. So I don't think that graphics would really become that big of an issue, especially when you're actually playing it. And I think the most of it is just all server issues and gameplay engine kind of stuff. Now, when it comes down to the story itself is actually quite interesting. It is somewhat interesting in areas, and yes, in some cases it can be quite dull. But at least you have lots of things to do. Pretty much just get from point A to point B, beat up a bunch of baddies as much as you can. And there are also other things called raids, which are actually quite interesting and somewhat, how do we say this? Kind of repetitive, really. One of those is something that I'll get to pretty soon, I suppose. another thing that I was gonna try to talk about too was the guild. You now have a special mode called guilds, which, if you're fans of any other MMOs or whatnot, you already know what a guild actually is and how it actually kind of works. Well, here you actually get yourself a guild house, and it's actually quite nice. It's actually one of the most recent updates that they did on this game, so it allows you to actually kind of have like a nice little hangout spot for yourself, your teammates, whatnot. Allow you to farm for resources, all sorts of interesting things. And also, if you are the owner or the administrator or whatnot, you're actually able to bring in all sorts of decorations. You, as the actual player, can actually, or sorry, you as the actual member can allow for yourself to help out by, excuse me, my apologies. You can actually like maintain some of these areas, like these farms and whatnot. It's not the most enticing thing in the world. It is actually useful in some cases, like certain ores, materials, and whatnot that might be a little more difficult to get. And, it is kind of a requirement to farm up, add different things. The benefits, though, of a guild is that it actually gives you all sorts of added benefits. Not only the benefits of like items and meeting with all sorts of other players and whatnot, but also the ability to like add in like certain abilities as well, such as obtaining those guild points. So seals are something that you need in order to obtain certain rare items. And yes, through the cosmetics and whatnot, you can actually earn yourself a bunch of stuff. But if you really want to work for it, guild seals are something that you collect, basically just from playing missions, doing certain events and whatnot. And it's not too difficult to actually obtain those things. It's fairly easy to do. Oh, excuse me. So one of the benefits, one of the nice things about doing this kind of stuff is it is kind of a nice thing because you do actually get to meet with different people in these areas and whatnot. In fact, let me just kind of go forward just a little more. So one of these nice things is that you get like access to getting seals in different ways, such as this vending machine, which is kind of strange, I think, in one of these types of games. But you know what? I'm not gonna complain, especially when they come up with something like this. Club Ledeca, which is perfect. It's actually really good on just being weird and obscured. It's actually kind of funny. Does it really have a purpose? In my mind, not really. You could just do a little dance. I always found that kind of strange, which is like the strange, obscured pop culture kind of things that kind of pop up and like games that try to be serious, but then they also try not to be serious, and it just becomes this weird uh little thing where it's just kind of changes up. Honestly, it is really interesting. It's kind of interesting to really see. I mean, I have plans for other things in my mind later in time for different types of games, but I think for right now I'll kind of stick with what I got right here. So um Yeah, the guild house system, it's okay. You know, it's not the most fantastic thing, but it is something really to work for and something to kind of add on to, especially if you're a person who played for a long time. And I do mean like a long time. I think this game has been out for like about, what, 10 years, and I only heard about it like not even like 5 to 6 months ago. And I started playing a lot of it and getting myself good and doing everything else. So one of the aspects of the game that I did want to touch on is the pay and is the monetization whatnot. So this game actually utilizes prepaid stuff. So it is this is a game that's basically based out, or it was based in North it no it was based in uh I believe in South Korea, I believe. And oh, that's better. So the way that it works is that you have all sorts of different items that are basically through cosmetics and also through special advantages for gameplay. So if you, for example, do something such as, try to enchant your weapon or something, there's a possibility that your weapon could break. So you can purchase something called enchantment stones or enchantment runes or whichever it is, and it will kind of prevent your weapon from actually being destroyed in the process. Now, it's not exactly pay to win, but it's more of a pay for an advantage kind of thing. I believe there are also other types of boosters as well to gain you more experience, and there's all sorts of other things too. You can also purchase things like pets and outfits and whatnot, and it's mainly kind of the main goal. So if there's something that you want, you can purchase it, and unfortunately, you cannot gift it away, which is really kind of a sad thing, especially if you're a person who does live streams. It's kind of difficult to actually give things away because that's what you do when you do live streams, is that you want to give things away, but realistically, trying to give things away, in droves is kind of difficult to do. Or perhaps there's not too many difficult things to do and maybe they change things. I'm not entirely sure. But it whatever it comes down to, it is kind of, sometimes it can be in droves and it can sometimes be, well, not at all. Who knows? But one of the big things that I wanted to catch on to was the outfits. In fact, I'll kind of move forward here a little bit. Oh, wait. So, one of the things here that is kind of a big pain in the butt is the raids. Raids are not really raids, more of like just boss battles, really. I'm just kind of checking out some of these other armor pieces that some people have, and kind of to tie in with the cosmetic side of things. Some of the cosmetics are actually pretty good looking. If anything, they are the things that really drive people in to actually purchase. I mean, what was it again? There was the Dead or Alive franchise that uses like a bunch of DLC for all of its characters and whatnot. A lot of people pay for it, no doubt about it. Um, one of those things that is kind of interesting, is always about that, uh, all those costumes and whatnot. So possibly, you know, there are a bunch of people who will spend a lot of money on owning everything. Oh yeah, and there's a bunch of gestures too that you can do. So, anyways, to talk a little bit more about the uh, the gameplay side for raids, like I said, a raid is not really a raid. It's more of just like a hardcore boss fight. Realistically, it's just a boss fight with your. It's just a standard boss fight with the health meter increased by like uh 5 or 10 times. It really doesn't matter. So like some bosses will have it a lot weaker, others will have it a lot more. Usually your standard raid boss is always going to be up in the 30s or something. It's not much, but it does take a little bit of time in order to get down to those. Hey, no, 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 stop. Catman. Catman? Where's the Catman? No. So, raid battles, they're fine. Realistically, there's no real way to tell, like, when a boss is actually going to do something, when you're going to actually get out of the way. Are you going to be able to get out of the way of its attacks or whatnot? I never find it, very enticing and too epic at times. It's fun for sure. I give the fact that it is fun, but I have experienced a lot of boss battles that are like, very, very well put together. And honestly, these kinds of battles, they just feel more like, put these are just regular bosses. Increase the amount of uh increase the amount of damage that they take, and that's it. Oh, now we gotta do another one. Let's put in two bosses. This is a moment here where this particular raid battle kind of glitches out a little bit and takes time to load, and it lets your camera freely move around until it loads. So that's kind of the um that's just kind of the disappointing part about the raid battles, is that they're not bad, but they really don't have anything spectacular to do. But these raid battles are kind of necessary in order to get these specific types of things like high level stuff and whatnot. And there are other opportunities too. Like, for example, right now I believe I'm stuck on season 1, or I could be just on season 2, and we're already up to season 3 in the game, and I've yet to get to that point. So at this moment, I don't have everything yet in order to get that far. Like, we just don't. There's a lot of stuff here we got to work towards before we can do anything. So I kind of want to move on to another character that I basically have been creating. This one is called Miri, but in the game I call her Lilith. She was originally supposed to be called Lilith, but somebody took that name, so I was like, okay, put in a P, make it sound more like a flower or something, as if Lilith didn't sound like it. So this character is basically one who uses a dragon spine, which is a long bladed weapon on a chain. And honestly, this one is actually really fun to play with. And and one of the things too about these characters is that they all have their own separate gameplay. So you have to go through the story like twice. It's not like you play with one profile and each character is playable and you just level them up separately. No, 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 no. if you want to level, if you want to play each one, you have to play all of them through their own story and on their own separate account, which kind of is kind of a low blow. So unlike in Warframe or, most recently Anthem, where you can select different types of you know characters to play as, and not have to swap between accounts, this doesn't exactly let you do that, which is kind of unfortunate. But I guess I can kind of let that slide. So my advice is, if you really, really want to try to play other characters, kind of get the idea if you really want to do that, and then find the one that you really like. And if you like that one, stick to it. If you don't, there are plenty of others to give a go. So another thing, well, what I was going to want to do here was to talk a little bit more about the microtransactions, specifically when it comes down to the character models. So Avatar Shop, Outfitter Shop, and the Dye Shop. Now these are where the money makers actually come from for this game. Now I will state that there will be kind of a bit of an explicit kind of point here, but it's not going to be too extreme. I'll just kind of point out here that there is going to be some partial nudity, but nothing much. So one of the biggest things that comes into this game is customization for your character. When you come into the game, you're basically given, your character is given like these very little tight, like underwear. I'm not talking like underwear as in like a bra and some like panties, or like just for your girl, or just a pair of underwear for your guy. I'm talking like, t-shirt, t-shirt, sweatpants, you're staying at your friend's house, kind of setup. So if you want your character to not have that, you would have to pay for the additional price, which is the regular Under Armour kind of stuff. Now, you would say like, oh, that's fine, I don't have to pay money for that, But if you get the costumes like this, like I'm trying to show, they actually, look really good, without that ugly Under Armour on. And if you want it, you can get it. You don't have to have, the original Under Armour or whatnot. You can easily purchase whatever you want. It gives you plenty of options here, and that's what the big ticker is here. So these, for this character, are all the custom made, pre-made stuff for costumes. And it costs NX points, which is Nexus points, or NX. And it says roughly about 20,000 Nexus points, which roughly comes to about $20. Now, if you want, you can easily purchase the whole set, or you can purchase items individually. So say you want to get yourself, this piece or that piece or whatnot, you can easily do that. But if you want to get the full set, you better just buy the full set, because the price is going to be a lot more than what you would expect. So if it costs 20,000 for the, if it costs 23,000 for the full set through its individual pieces, and it only costs 20,000 for the full set, you better just get the full. But if you want to mix and match all your stuff, then go for it. It's more than acceptable to actually do it. But as I said, they give you lots of options here, especially for all the different customizations for your characters. It really kind of makes you stand out. If whatever style you have, they have it. I guarantee it. And if you know me, I like the dapper look which is the nice suit and tie kind of look. It just looks so good. I'm sorry, whether you're a girl or a guy, if you look dapper in a suit, I love it. Also, for the ladies, if you can pull that stuff off, whew, that is good stuff. But of course, do you have to pay for any of this stuff? Absolutely not. You would, it just kind of makes you stand out more, and that's really it. Now, another thing that I will kind of point out here too is that there are temporary stuff that you can purchase. Now, I know that there have been like kind of complications behind that whole system of like, why is this temporary? Why doesn't it just always become permanent? Yes, there is kind of a thing where I see that, and no. One of the things is that, if there's a thing there that you only want to wear for a set amount of time, you can easily do that. It'll only give you like 30 days for like $5 and you can actually wear it. So like you have a specific type of Under Armour that you want to wear, to go with a certain type of outfit, for that season, then that's entirely okay. And you can do that. If you want it permanently, well, it's just an extra $5, so it's okay. Now, one of the things that I will point out here too is the dye shop, or the dyeing of your outfit. So this character, for this armor, it's entirely partially green. So the way that it works is that each piece has 3 pieces of color that goes towards each part, each individual thing. So from your head to your shoulders to whatnot, it each has 3 different types of colors that can become affected. Now, each one is basically done randomly, and it's not really great to get random colors through the whole thing, but you can do it through gold, and you can also purchase what they call ampules, which help you to dye your color in specific colors. It's not exactly clear. It doesn't really tell you and like how it really works, but it is, I don't know. If you really want to dye it, I would just say get yourself an ampule, or if you want to save yourself some money and just get your pieces to look like they match closely, just do the random. The gold doesn't cost anything, it's entirely alright. But I think other than that, I think everything else is covered. Now, would I recommend this game? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind that I would actually recommend this game and, give it a go. I mean, when it comes down to free-to-play games, anything is good. So I would definitely give it a go. I would give it a play, because it is one of those games where it is, it's kind of odd, it's kind of obscured, and I think it's just because it's just drowning in all sorts of, like, what is it? Like AAA garbage, that is practically kind of ruining the whole live service market. At least there are good quality games out there that you can give a go, just to try out. And if you don't like it, then that's entirely okay. Now, if you do choose to play this and you are near any type of server, I highly recommend you choose the North American server, because you would have the most amount of players. Because if you're in Europe or any other country, there may be censorship laws that would have to be appealed to. And if you already saw the customizations in this game, you would already have an idea of what that means. But yeah, if you want to do that, that's entirely okay. But anyways, guys, this has been a terrible review, and am I going to give a number? Absolutely not. Probably not right now. maybe I'll come up with something. It's like, is the music good? Music's okay. It's not exactly the best, but I'd give it like half a point. Is the graphics good? The graphics are good. They're decent in quality, you know, and it is quite enjoyable to play and look at the same time. Playability, is it playable? Yes. I say that the playability is excellent in some cases. Actually, you know what? Let me grab myself a pen and paper and I will kind of make up stuff on the spot. This is exactly what you get when you ad lib stuff like this. Because you come up with all sorts of different things.
Okay, Mr. Deeds. Mr. Dillon, what shall we put down?
Well, put down for music.
Okay.
Now put down for graphics. Okay. Playability.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what else should we do? They always do something like, I look at other reviewers and they're like, the graphics are fine, the gameplay is okay, and whatnot. The cost, I think that would be a good one. So for the cost on this one, I would say that it's pretty fair. But we'll get to that. And stability. Yeah. Music, graphics, playability, cost, and stability. So, what do I say? Well, I say for the music is pretty okay. Do I say that it's the best thing possible? Not exactly. If anything, the music doesn't really sound like it's too original. Mainly just because I always hear the same type of music that seems to play. Unless if this game actually had its own official release and it was just kind of like a spin-off, then I could see that being the case. But honestly, I don't think that this would be the music that would be written home for. If anything, it just kind of feels like stock footage, kind of stock music at this point. So, am I going to say that it's bad? No. I'll give it a half a point because of that. So the way I'd probably would mark my own writing is that I would give it a 1 if it's good. If it's perfect, I would give it a half if it's good. And if it's not good, I'd give it a 0. And for this, I say that the music's good, so I will say only a half a point. For the graphics themselves are nice and stable. They're good. Everything is practically original. It all looks okay, and I'll give it a good point for that one. Playability. For its playing style, everything is doable. Everything is fun, impactful, really interesting and fun to play. All the characters themselves have different attributes and play styles that you do. So, for example, Herc, you want to be more upfront. With Miri here, you want to be more, on the sidelines, doing all sorts of different stuff. Your different abilities and whatnot. So, playability, ease of understanding, is really good. So I would do something like that. So I would give that a 1. So, the cost. The cost of the game is nothing. It should be pretty fair, pretty honest right there. So nothing right there up front. If you don't want to pay, you don't have to pay. And if you want to progress to the game, you don't have to pay a dime. And that's very nice. Now, when it comes down to individual sales, that can be seen as a problem, but honestly, I don't think that anybody would really care much for it. Whereas it comes down as options rather instead of being forced. So if you don't want to pay for it, you do not have to pay for it. So for the cost of the game, I would give that a 1. Now, when it comes down to the final score, which is stability, I say for stability, I'd say it is pretty poor. Not the worst that I've ever seen, but it is pretty daggum bad. Now, for this, I'll give it only a half a point. And you know what? I don't think that would really kind of play out with the rest of the stuff. So I think I'll add in other things like, how about story? How about things like originality? That's what, 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Crap, I don't know. See, you see what happens when you actually try to ad-lib this stuff? Because it takes time out of your, it takes a lot of effort and time in actually doing stuff like this. So, yeah. You know, just trying to think of this stuff on the dot, playing it on the fly, whatnot. You know, heck, I could probably do that. You know, just 7 points right there. Nah, I think originality, bleh, get rid of that. Playability, cost, stability, story. Well, you know what? How about I let other people tell me? You know, what do you think else that I should add on there for for scoring? Do you think that I have anything that I should add on there? You know, for honesty's sake, that's what I think this should be. It's like, it's a terrible review, and I'm being honest about that. And also, like, just trying to see, like, honestly, like, what people would like and if it would actually have anything else. So for the story portion of this, the story, it's not excellent, it's not bad, it's okay. So for the story, I will give it a half a point. So with that of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 focus points, I would say with a grand total of 4.5 out of 6. So, out of that whole thing, I say that this is a pretty good game. It is fair to play. It is good to go, good to accept, easy to understand, and fun to enjoy. You know, even if you want to do it as just like a, you know, get in, be casual, and just do whatever you like. But anyways, guys, with that said, a 4.5 out of 6 is not bad. In fact, when I got other games that are coming up that I have in mind, you know, get ready for those, because I'm gonna really talk some sense out of them, or put some sense in them, or just praise them, or whatnot. Who knows? These reviews are terrible, and I know it. But anyways, guys, thank you if you guys actually check this out, and I will see you guys later.